Welcome to the Diversity Scholarship Foundation's Profiles in the Law. I'm your host, Justice Jesse Reyes, a justice on the Illinois Appellate Court First District. And this program is designed to provide an opportunity for individuals from the legal profession, prominent individuals from the legal profession, to tell us a little bit about themselves, the type of work that they do. And today we are definitely very privileged and honored to have Judge Maura Slattery Boyle. Judge, welcome to the program.
Good afternoon, Judge.
All right. And so I know you're currently assigned to the Law Division, correct?
I am at this time, and I primarily am overseeing cases, jury trials involving medical malpractice. I've been on the bench for over 23 years, and at the beginning of my career, I was in the criminal division.
Wow, time flies, 23 years.
It sure does.
So, and in your prior life as a lawyer, you worked in the state's attorney's office, did you not?
I did. When I left, I was assigned to the domestic violence division, and I was the deputy supervisor of that division.
Okay, and can you tell us back then when you were there, what was the responsibilities of the deputy supervisor?
Well, in addition, we oversaw all of the state's attorneys within the building, and at that time we were located at 13th in Michigan, but also the prosecutors throughout the county. We were one of the busiest domestic violence units in the country with approximately over 55,000 misdemeanor cases at that time. In addition to making sure that there was training for the state's attorneys, as well as the courtrooms were staffed, and assisting victims with different programs and trying to serve their needs.
And just so our viewers know, 13th in Michigan, that currently is not where the domestic violence courthouse is. In fact, it was a rather unique building to have a courthouse in, wasn't it?
It was. It was not meant for that. We had two elevators that went with it. We had victims and alleged defendants on the same elevators, and now the new building is located at 555 West Harrison, and I think it alleviates a lot of the problems and the interactions, and is a much more suited courthouse for this type of cases that are heard there.
Right. And in fact, because the building was so old, I think just the courtrooms were air-conditioned and the hallways were not.
It was. We had windows that we would open. It was a very antiquated building, but that's been remedied.
Yes, and it's a lot more fashionable now.
It is.
Yes. In your capacity as a deputy supervisor to domestic violence court, did you have opportunity to try cases yourself?
I did. Prior to being a deputy supervisor, I was also a prosecutor in the TAC program, which was an attempt, or which we funded by the federal government under VAWA, to provide victims of domestic violence not only with criminal representation in criminal cases where they were the victim, but also to provide civil attorneys and advocates to help with more of a wraparound approach. In addition, prior to that, I was a line prosecutor in the domestic violence unit as well.
And just so our viewers are aware, I mean, we're going to be talking about a specific case, but for those who are unfortunate victims of domestic violence, what do they have available in terms of their rights, services that are available? Could you just kindly address that?
Well, the victim advocates, we have victim advocates not only from the Cook County State's Attorney's Office, but from private institutions or private organizations within the building. They provide the victims with opportunities if they need to, leave their current housing. They have opportunities to provide shelter, counseling, civil legal representation, and we also have the ability to provide them with orders of protection in order to again, assure their safety, not only at home, but at work, and if there's minor children or older adults in the house, to provide them with those protections.
Great. And the orders of protection are designed to provide protection for the victim and then any family members that might be affected as well, correct?
That's correct. Dependents such as minor children, or if you have older adults, family members, or siblings that may be living with the victim, that also will provide that additional protection for them to avoid any harassment by the alleged, harasser or the individual that's accused, so that they have no contact whatsoever from prohibiting them in the residence, near the residence, their work, contacting them in any way, either by email, voice message, or even preventing them from using a third party to contact them. So to eliminate that type of harassment and intimidation and stalking.
And with regards to the orders of protection, if individuals that do not speak English very well or don't speak English at all, are there interpreters to provide them with service?
There are. We have interpreters on site that assist with Spanish speaking as well as Polish speaking, but we do have the opportunity to contact other internet interpreters of different various languages to assist any victims or their family members with that they can avail themselves of the court and that protection.
And if someone wants to file a complaint or try to get an order of protection, what is the first step that they should take?
Well, the first step is that if there's any documentation or any text messages or any photographs, they should obviously maintain those. They can, if it's an emergency situation, you should obviously call 911 right away. You can also call, if somebody contacts you in a harassing nature, and if you're in a relationship with that person, you can call 311 and make a police report. That affords you the opportunity then to proceed in Chicago to 555 West Harrison, where you'll be interviewed by a state's attorney and charges can be filed.
All right. And going back to your time there as deputy supervisor of the state's attorney's office, there was a particular unique case that was tried during your tenure there. Could you talk about that a little bit?
In this one particular case that we had, the victim and the individual that she was in a relationship with, he had come home and there was a physical altercation. He prevented her from leaving and or contacting anyone for assistance. Eventually, when that perpetrator fell asleep, she was able then to escape and run to a neighbor's house. And at that point, she made statements to the neighbor about everything that occurred, all being said that the event occurred a few hours before when she made those statements to the neighbor.
Okay, and so then the case proceeded, and then what happened once the case went to trial?
The case went to trial, and the prosecutor requested the judge statements. Sometimes they're called excited utterance or out-of-court statements that can be used in cases. Normally they're called hearsay, and they're prevented because there's a question of reliability. But in this case, the state's attorney argued that those statements, even though they were several hours later, those were still exceptions to the hearsay rule because the victim was making those statements the first time she was afforded to make them, so that it was still an excited utterance because there had been that period of time where she was unable to communicate with anybody, either via phone or in person, so that the state's attorney on that case argued successfully that it was still an excited utterance, even though it happened, the time period was more than a few hours after the original occurrence.
Okay. And did the state's attorney's office proceed with this prosecution?
They did, and they were successful in it, and using those statements helped to bring around a conviction on that case, and again, provide that victim with protection to hold the individual accountable, as well as an order of protection to prevent that type of behavior.
Okay. And so going back to what you said earlier, it's important for the person who's bringing the case to save whatever photographs they have or any documents they may have that would help their case, correct?
Absolutely. I mean, the more that you can show proof of what occurred via videotape or the ring doorbells that are common now, or if there's emails, texts, screenshots, or even Snapchat, any of that information that you can bring with you to court or to the state's attorney's office will help and assist in those victims in getting the services and getting the justice that they desperately need.
Right. And it's my understanding that this case that you're referring to, it was the first of its kind in terms of being tried here in Cook County.
It was. This was unusual that we were able to use this excited utterance in that fashion, and it was an evidence-based prosecution, and it was affirmed by the appellate court. So it is still good law in the state. This occurred, and I think the appellate decision was issued in 1999.
Yes. Okay. And I understand that other jurisdictions now sort of copy this trial because there's transcripts and things of that nature to be able to present those type of cases in front of a judge or a jury.
Correct. Because of the uniqueness of domestic violence cases, victims are often reluctant, and the more opportunities we have to preserve and present evidence will then lead to them being safer and allow them the justice that they are entitled to and deserve.
Any other words of suggestions or information that you think you might be able to provide with our viewers that might be dealing with this type of situation?
We are fortunate in Chicago with the coordination between the Chicago Police Department and the advocacy community. We have a program in place or a pilot or oversight called Chicago Response that works to provide victims the continued services that they need, that you should, again, preserve all evidence that you can, contact the police and make a report, and contact the state's attorney's office. There are people here to help you and to ensure all the different facets, be it your children, yourself, in order to get yourself out of the situation and to get the justice that you need.
And so, again, I think it's important to relate that any and all facts relating to the incident should be communicated to the paramedics, to the police officers, and to the victim witness individuals taking this information in, because you never know what might be important.
Correct, and it gives the prosecutor a better idea and a more accurate idea of what has gone on in the situation. No detail is too small. All of it can help and assist the state's attorney in helping you seek justice, so that the more detail you provide, the better that it will be.
Right. And in the event that someone has to leave their home, there are agencies that provide services to those individuals, correct?
There is, correct. And again, through the state's attorney's office and different advocacy and agencies on behalf of victims, they can relocate you, they can provide, indicate and direct you towards shelters. There currently is a 24-hour order protection program that was initiated under the chief judge and various partners to allow those individuals, because these type of incidents don't happen between 9 to 5, they happen all hours of the night, so that it's another way to provide victims of domestic violence the opportunity to seek safety and that type of protection.
And I know typically everybody assumes that these situations involve male, female, but this actually unfortunately involves a lot of type of individuals, correct?
It does. I mean, this is every type of relationship, be it elder individuals being by their caretakers, children, same-sex relationships, roommate situations. So that when we say domestic violence, it does not just necessarily involve people in a relationship. There are several different types of relationships that are defined under the domestic violence statute.
Right. And I think a good point that you just raised is with regards to senior citizens. Sometimes it might not be physical,
correct,
right? But it could be emotional, psychological,
and financial.
And financial.
So that any of those documents that you have, or the checking statements that you get, or charges, that should be preserved on behalf of loved ones or senior citizens that may be in your family, that they might have caretakers, be it another family member or an outside agency, that could be exerting any type of undue financial control over that person.
Okay. And then just once again for our viewers, could you just read those agencies that if someone wants to file a domestic violence complaint, they could go to?
They can either call the Chicago Police Department through 911 and ask for immediate assistance, or 311 and make a police report, and you will get what is known as an RD number. And you can take that number to the Cook County State's Attorney's Office, and they can either also investigate and also assess the case and file charges. There's the Chicago Network in Chicago, Battered Women's Network, which provides information as well on other services that you might need.
Yeah, and one of the other agencies also that we should mention that assists in this area is the organization known as Mujeres Latinas en Acción.
Correct. And WINGS, there's organizations in each community and segment of society to help victims of domestic violence.
Well, thank you very much, Judge Slattery Boyle, for being here with us and passing along this important information to our viewers. Again, this was the Diversity Scholarship Foundation's Profiles in the Law, and we have had the great pleasure of having Judge Maura Slattery Boyle here as our guest.
Thank you, Justice Reyes. I appreciate the time.
It's my pleasure.